Hi, my name is Erin. I have two small children, ages 4 and 5, a boy and a girl, that are both severely nonverbal autistic. My daughter has it with, her diagnosis is actually autism with encephalopathy, and it's pretty broad since it's brain. My son, just the one single diagnosis. So I'm going to say a few things about what it's like personally and for our family to have this going on so close to us. So we'll start with, I'm going to start with the effects of a sibling. We have a 17-year-old daughter who was the only child until age 12. So this has been a huge change for her because once Lillian, who is the oldest of the two, was diagnosed, it required 99% of my time always between appointments to make sure, to have an EEG, to make sure that there was no seizures happening and there was no damage there, or MRIs, to check the brain in general, or sedated hearing tests because we couldn't do a regular hearing test, and all of these sorts of things. Trying to find the therapy that was going to be the right for her. We knew the ABA was going to be a great therapy, just by what I had read out of books that we had been given from doctors and such. But we weren't sure how well she would, if she would take to it. We didn't know. A little bit of a background with Lillian was she was perfectly fine until 18 months old. There was absolutely no indication that we were headed anywhere near something like this. She, at 18 months, she was starting to eat some different foods, and she was starting to talk a little bit, and we could set her on the potty to go to the restroom. Those types of things that were normal. She would play around with her stuff. At 18 months, it appeared that a switch had been flipped, and the kid that we knew was gone. And personally, for me, that's probably the hardest part of all of this, is the fact that we saw a glimpse of who maybe she could have been, and then it was just ripped right straight from us. So, anyways, then, we immediately started the process of ABA, which is not a quick process to get them into, because there was just, it seemed like all of a sudden, just like a stampede of people trying to get into these centers. And we live right near Terre Haute, so it was either that we were going to try in Terre Haute, or I was going to make the drive to Avon. But anyways, with that being said, we got her into it. We've had to ultimately try. We're on our third ABA center between both kids, and but back to so with Sydney's had to do some personal therapy to learn empathy with them. Sydney was, very hard towards me. Pretty much hard towards anybody except my mother. It was everybody, this somehow was everybody else's fault. And in reality, it wasn't any of our faults. This is just something that happened. So 3 years later, here we are, and Sydney can talk to them, Sydney can help them, Sydney is attentive to them, and Sydney truly loves them. I can't say that 3 years ago, when this all began for us, that she truly loved them. I think they were more of a burden to her. But through the time, we have gotten sort of through that, and she's had to learn. We've all had to adjust, And you know, we don't love one more than the other. Just, you know, Mark and Lillian need special attention, and they need more attention because we have to make sure that, you know, they don't hurt themselves, etc. So I think for siblings, it's tough. There has to be a lot of understanding, but yeah, also have to make time for the older siblings or the younger siblings, whichever it is. You have to make time for them to make them feel like that this doesn't overpower them. So, or overshadow them. It's kind of crazy, all of it, but you have to be strong, and you have to make sure that you can work through it. And so, like I said, you know, today, three years later, Sydney, I would trust Sydney to stay with them, and I wouldn't have a year ago, 2 years ago, I suppose. But everything has changed, and like I said, there just has to be a lot of attention given towards the sibling, equally as much, even though that's hard, as you give, you know, the child with autism. Let's see, financially, to have one child with autism is awful. Financially, to have 2 children with autism is that much worse. When we started with Lillian, we wanted to get, you know, I thought, oh, well, we'll just get an insurance policy and we'll cover this ABA. She was diagnosed in February of 2014. We thought this would be great. Yep, no. Because at that time, and still I believe, you know, it's not considered life-changing, so you couldn't just go buy a policy, and you just couldn't go get what you needed that way. So I filed for Social Security for her. With that, we got the Medicaid. I could get them into an ABA center that took Medicaid, which was great, because I had no idea what we were about to start finding out with all of this. You know, we all do without. Everything is super expensive these days anyways, without having to legit start thinking about full-time type care for your 2 children who never asked, you know, in the first place, to be autistic, or anything else. And by no means do I think, now that I have dealt with it with both kids, because I don't work, I make sure that they get where they need to go. And that is a hard thing, because if I get a phone call at 10 o'clock, you know, in the morning, oh, this one's got a fever, you have to come and get them. I mean, I would be fired from any job, legit, that I would try to get, because I don't trust a whole lot of people to cart them around. That's my fault. I feel like nothing will happen if it's me, and it could totally happen if it was me driving them around. But I don't know. I feel better when it's me, and that's my fault. You know, we want to go on vacations. I want to take my oldest to go shopping. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. These are just all things that just aren't in the cards anymore. I'm lucky to go to a movie and out to dinner with my friends. You know, my husband works as many hours as he can and everything else, and it's tough. You know, we, after her first 6-month stint in an ABA center, and that went completely sour, and we won't get into that, but I had to look, you know, we were in Terre Haute, and there wasn't really much going on here, so I had to start looking towards Indianapolis. I went to Carmel and looked at Little Star. I was willing to drive to Bloomington if that's what it took, wherever I needed to go. So I found a place in Avon, and they managed to get them in right away. The kicker to that was that we had to get private policies. All right, fine. So I got the private policies, which were costing us $140 per kid per month. with about $14,000 out of pocket a year. Now, granted, there are tons of grants. There are tons of things that you can, you can apply for to help you with all of that. I will say that United Healthcare as a whole, which is who we liked right out of the gate, has made it near impossible. That the questions on their applications and stuff now are just absolutely insane. So they don't really make it that easy. But at any rate, it was, my husband said, you're going to drive to Avon every day. It's 60 miles one way. I said, yeah. I mean, if this is what they need, this is what they need. What am I going to do? I can't shut them in, and I don't ever want them to be institutionalized, so this is what we have to do. So, yeah, so I started doing it, and I did it for 2 years straight. We got up, we drove it. I mean, now that I'm not doing it, because we did get them into a center in Terre Haute now, and they do take the Medicaid, but the financial side of all of this of it was, in 2015 it was $140 per kid per policy. Then it went to $170 per kid per policy. Then this year it was going to be $210 per kid per policy. With the out of pocket, it's still $14,000. So it was just getting to be too much. Anthem eventually terminated their policies, which we've never. I have fight for some things and fight for other things I don't, and I do think we were kind of becoming at an impasse with the ABA center we were at. I thought that we needed to probably make a change, and it has turned out to be a great change. But in the meanwhile, the financial part of it did become a big part of the decision making for that, because we were on the skinnies, and it's extremely hard to have a normal life, so to speak, with one child on the spectrum running to, speech and OT and this and that, and having to have therapists go with you to the dentist and, to help you hold them down so you can get their teeth checked, or, to the pediatrician for shots, or to the eye doctors to make sure their eyes, everything is really a job, and it's not a one-person job. I mean, it takes an army to get some of these things done. But the financial side of everything is that it's rough. We are actually, we had gotten over, $50,000 or $60,000 in medical bills just from this ABA center once Anthem terminated. So with that being said, then everything else just started to kind of crumble, and we have to start making decisions, about what's best for our family and how to proceed going forward, financially. I mean, we've got one that's getting ready is going to be going to college. Life doesn't stop. It doesn't matter. It is a burden for sure, the financial side of it. But I live in a cardboard box with my kids if that's what it took, because, I am totally committed to everything about them, and making sure that they become who they are truly supposed to be. So, if it took us living in a cardboard box, I don't think it would ever come to that, but if it did, we would do it. But yeah, sometimes you have to maneuver bills, you have to do this and that, my kids don't eat. My son just started eating stage 3 baby food, which, is $1.44 for 2. And some days he'll eat 8 in one sitting. So that gets expensive. The kids eat, or their only source of nutrition, and the only thing they drink is Boost. And you cannot, with our daughter, I could kind of trick her a little bit. With my son, he will legit stand there, watch you pour it, make sure it comes out of the Boost bottle. So we then bought cheaper versions of that, put it into the Boost bottle, thinking, we could do this, and then we could pour it in there. Yep, no. My husband made a good point. He said, you don't like Pepsi, and Pepsi and Coke are different. Well, you know what? Same thing. And usually Pepsi and Coke are differently priced at the store too. So it's no different. You know, if I'm not going to buy this for myself, then how can I expect him to drink something that I know he likes and get him something different? So it just doesn't work. But, and we pay $8 a 6-pack. So, and my son could, and the doctor, we have them on 5 a day. So a 6-pack does not last long, obviously. So we go through a ton of Boost, and it does cost us quite a bit of money. But everything does, and you just have to kind of rearrange and regroup and just figure it out. And, you know, if you were worrying about every single little thing all the time, you'll never get anything done. I always use the reference like when I'm driving. When I was teaching, I was having to drive with my oldest daughter right before she was getting her driver's license, and we'd be on a roundabout, and she'd be like, you know, you have to. She's like, I don't like these things. They're confusing. I'm like, they're not. I'm like, don't hesitate. Pay attention to the traffic coming around and just go. It'll be fine. Except one day I was with her and I was driving and I thought about it, and then I was like at a standstill, and I thought, I'm old already and I've been driving forever and I can't, why can't I get on this thing? So there are some things that I feel like you just can't think about. You just have to do them. Just jump in straight ahead. And I feel like that's what I've done with this, and we've had to really, the financial side of everything is we've had to take some cuts and we've had to make some adjustments, but you know what? It works. You just find ways to make it work. You cut back where you can cut back, and you do what you got to do. It did make a huge difference once we finally got Medicaid started to cover diapers. Neither kid is potty trained. And that was becoming a lot of money. So, at any rate, we did make those, you know, we got that saved us. You know, we've tried to find things for the Boost and here and there. And, you know, we really truly make it work. But there is a financial strain. And unless you're, you know, extremely wealthy, then there wouldn't be. And there are plenty of those out there. But for the normal person, it would be a huge shock to the system by far. Especially if you're used to going and doing whatever you want, dropping $20 anytime you want, this and that. Yeah, then it would be tough. I'm gonna, you know, I think because I directly am the caregiver for them, I go through a lot of different stages of stress for myself. I have, you know, I don't want to say I get upset. I hardly ever cry about any of this stuff. There's no point in it. It does me no good. Sometimes I get more stressed out by crying because it's like, oh, you know, I just have to keep myself going, keep myself busy, get occupied in things, and focus on what's best for them. I'm constantly always looking for, you know, what's going to be the next best thing for them, or what could I do to maybe help this move along, and, you know, and all these things. There's a lot of stress that goes along with it. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with it, between insurance stuff and between trying to get things to help you, you know, all kinds of things, and everything as a whole. My theory now is that if I don't have any stress, then what am I doing? I must be doing something wrong if there's no stress, because stress to me is not a complete bad thing, but it is always present. It is always on my shoulders, and it is always in my head. And I just know how to kind of maneuver through it. And I think, for myself, it's just finding those things that work for you to keep you going, to keep you motivated, and to keep, and to keep myself free and clear from ever having like my own sort of crazy kind of meltdown, which has happened a time or two. My husband and I, we have a lot of we have a lot of we don't have as many, I don't think, bad situations between he and I or anything like that. It is stressful. If he goes, hey, it's, August or whatever, and we're doing, it's fantasy football time, and I'm going to be gone like 7 Saturdays or 5 Saturdays or 5 days so I can get all these drafts done. Are you okay with that? Yeah, probably not. I'm probably not okay with that. Because I feel like during the week, yes, they're in therapy, but when they come home, he's usually at work, and then it's me still, which is fine, but it puts I get a lot of sour feelings towards him, because I'm like, oh, he gets to do whatever he wants, and I don't ever, I hardly ever get to do anything. It's like I gotta schedule out something, 3 weeks in advance, so that I make sure he's not doing something so that I can't do anything. And those to us, or to me, are the basic things that give us trouble. We don't, we try to make time for each other. We try to make time to, do things together and stuff. But sometimes there's, it's just not there, the capability to do that. And also sometimes, Lillian, sometimes she sleeps fantastic, and sometimes she gets up like, last night she got up at 10:30 and has been up ever since. So, and it is now 5:30. So what happens? What do I get accomplished for this day? I take him to therapy, and then the next thing you know is I come home and I go to sleep. And I sleep all afternoon because I haven't slept. And my own personal being is as important as me taking care of them, because the weight of everything is on me. So I have to be alert, and I have to be somewhat as well rested as I can be. And when Richard's working, I don't have him to do that to help me so the millions of things that have come across our table that maybe should have caused us to go down the road to divorce or separation or any of those things, they haven't broken us yet. And I think every time we hit that hurdle, it's fantastic, because in reality, we're just proving that we can still maintain our marriage and deal with all of the obstacles that keep coming at us. So there's a strain, yes, but ultimately I believe that it's how you handle that and how you can move forward from it. And if you can make it work and keep on pushing, that's what should happen, in my opinion. So I have, I do have quite a few friends who come to my rescue, thankfully. At the drop of a dime, if I call one, I'm like, hey, I want to take my kids to the park, or I want to take them outside to swing. Richard is doing something outside right now. I need help because I can't obviously take both of them at the same time. And then my friend's here in 15 minutes, and then we spend outside, we go outside and we swing them and we play them and we do all these things, and they get to have some fun. I have my friend I get to chit chat with, and it's very hard to have a 4 and 5 year old, and have, any kind of social life. But with that being said, the best thing I have ever done was we got the Medicaid waiver, and now I get respite. So I have respite usually every Saturday, every other Saturday. And I go and I usually have them here from 9 to 3, 9 to 4. I either go out to eat and to a movie with my friends, we'll go shopping, I go grocery shopping with my friends, which is a lot more fun than going by myself. But I try to interact with my friends as much as I possibly can, because they are the ones that ground me. It's, 7 hours. I don't really have to talk about a whole lot of stuff that bothers me. It's just a time for me to have a good time and spend some time having fun for me, which I feel like is neither here nor there anymore. But it's important. It's extremely important to make time for myself, and to have my support team of my friends and my family. And so, probably the best thing we ever did was absolutely get respite. It was fantastic. So probably, I know I'm trying to just, kind of make some sense of everything and put it all into one place, and I'm kind of probably all over the place, which is okay. Because in reality, that's my life, is to go from here to there, to here to there, back up here, back down there. It's never a straight line. And that's what I know. But now the kids are in this, ABA therapy, a new ABA therapy place. It seems to be very, very effective where they are now. They are truly by the book. It is very disciplined, so to speak. And we just put some communication software on Lillian's iPad to try and really get her maybe some more motivation to speak. She has a few words, but not a whole lot. Now my son, he's been the exact same since birth, and there was no change for him. There was no nothing. There wasn't anything. He's just always been the same, and he makes a ton of noise. Sometimes I feel like I can hear, I think I hear something, a word, but I don't know. And, I figure we do what we're supposed to do, and if he's going to talk, he's going to talk. And in cases of kids with autism, a lot of them don't talk until, later, and that's okay. As long as they can communicate with me one way or another and communicate with the outside world as much as they need to, I'm okay with that. We'll work with it. It will be what it will be. But anyways, so these are just a few things that I think are important on understanding what a normal person with normal income, with a normal life, goes through in dealing with not just one, but 2 children on the autism spectrum. But I love my kids, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. And with that being said, I have a couple pictures that I thought maybe I'd show. But since I am so behind on things, like here is, you probably can't see it either. Nope, I'm gonna have to figure out a different way to do this. There we go. This was at the therapy place in Avon, and that was Mark and Lily, and myself, and they don't really like pictures, and they definitely don't like to be tied down and such. So, that's where we are with that. And that was both of us. And then, I'm trying to, here's, I wanted to learn how to best, this is Lillian It's not a great picture. And maybe if I do that, no, that's not gonna work. Oh, that's better. That's better. Okay. We're at Texas Roadhouse at Avon. I had the BCBA. I asked, could you go with me? Could you show me what's a great way to take her out to eat and how we could get her, to sit there so that maybe Richard and I could go out to eat. And we did that, and this was her, and we had a million toys, and we had the iPad, but it worked, and she did okay. So that was, she just is kind of like just straight-faced. And then this, let's see if you can see. It's not real great. Oh, it's my oldest daughter, and that is not really doing what I want it to do. But that is my oldest daughter and Lillian. They do have a little bit of love for each other. And more so now. But this wouldn't have happened, 3 years ago. I would have never gotten a picture like this. Then you've got Mark getting his hair cut, which is the least fun thing, although he sits there and he does it now. He's not a real fan, but he will do it, which is far better, today than it was 3 years ago. So we just keep doing these things. The more that they do it, it seems the better it gets. But there you find new ways to make it easier for them. And those are the things, the touching, all the just the different things, that bother them. We just have to figure out how to make it easier for them to get those kinds of things done. So at any rate, this is what I know. This is my perspective on my life living with 2 children on the autism spectrum. On the severe side, both of them. Anyways, I hope that this will reach someone and help someone or motivate someone. And if it does, I'm really glad. Because, there was not very many people around to help me besides doctors and such. And it's nice to make a friend. And it's nice to make a friend that they can text you or call you at any time and ask you, hey, what's going on with this? And you can truly become friends with that person and have a support system. And support is extremely important. So, is your sanity. So, anyways, that's it. So, thanks.